Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to all of my YouTubers. I just, of course, gonna start on other social media. You can go here. Let's see. I'm gonna move that. Go over to Twitter and follow me. I'm Urban Intellectual at Styles by Nina. Of course, you can go to my Instagram. I am Styles by Nina LLC on Instagram. Go over and follow me. I'm there. Now, I wanted to give a shout out to my homie. This is my homie. Go over and follow her as well. This is my homie. I call her Red, but she makes charm bracelets. And I'm going to start featuring some of the black businesses. And by black, I mean melanated businesses on my page. This is her Instagram, Path 11. And she made this for my cousin. I have an order in process. My cousin is Jamise on Instagram. Well, I think that was on her Facebook, but on Instagram, she's Jamise as well, okay? She made that for her. She custom makes jewelry. You can just DM her. And of course, my family, this is my cousin, but we don't discuss religion with everybody because, you can't tell people that these symbols and stuff mean something totally different. This is another piece she made. And she hand makes charm bracelets, different kinds. You let her know what you would like, and she'll make it for you. We say create. So y'all go over Instagram and show her some love. Anyway, we're gonna go back to what we do, which is to see what's going on in the world. And y'all, sometimes my mouth is wide open when I'm seeing some of this stuff. Y'all have no idea. Now, I just got off work. I'm tired. I had a client last night, and I love my clients. I was just hoping she didn't change her mind about the style she wanted. And we were back and forth on that. And then I got to finish. And I can't just lay down. So I was up for a couple of hours after that, tired. But lo and behold, the increase is always welcome. I would like to welcome my new subscriber. Welcome back to all of my peeps. Peace and power to you all. Shout out to everybody who comments, who shares, who likes. That's how we keep this information flowing. So we're gonna start going in. Shout out to Glory Child Indigenous. She has her own channel where she's spreading truth and biblical info. And I know some of these comments are spam, but I'll take it. Even if it's melanated spam, I'll take it. Shout out to the brother Fire. Always comments, shows love. Shout out to the sister Shia. Or I hope I'm pronouncing these names right, y'all. Y'all know I'm Southern, honey. We pronounce all the syllables. Shout out to the brother Winifred Holcomb. And I'm not familiar with this person, but Dark Beauty, shout out. And of course to my brother Uno. Get into the root of it all. One, y'all go over there and check out some of these people in their own element. Just dropping this knowledge and doing what we do. We're just trying to spread this knowledge among our brothers and sisters. Shout out to my sister Mia. Shout out to all the families that are in Utah. I hope that you are staying warm. Shout out to Arthur Scott. Showing a little love. You know, I try to go over here and then I get stuff like this. You know, I think that's Sean Defonso or Gene, I don't know. But thank you for coming. The one for you. Shout out to everybody who takes out time to come to my channel and show me some love. Shout out to Madison D. And of course the Remnant. Shout out to, so I have an email that is saved in a draft to you. And I'm so sorry. I just been so busy. And not to say that I don't have the time. I just forget, honestly. And sometimes my memory suffers me. So shout out to everybody. Like I said, peace and power to everybody. I hope everybody is studying to show themselves approved. I just was going back and forth with my homegirl Red about that Azalea Banks video. And I told her, I said, sometimes my mouth is just wide open. She's cleaning up a blood sacrifice on live screen. And then stuff is creepy to me. I just don't understand. And it was 3 years worth of blood sacrifice. I have no idea why you would let that stay on your floor. I don't venture into it. I have no interest in anything of that nature. Yeah, I'm trying to look kind of rough. Okay, there it is. Okay. But yeah, Sister Tanya Moore sent me some information on Noble Drew Ali. My question that was sent to her was, you know, has she ever heard of him? And her response was yes. And then she sent me a link. And of course I read it and I just laughed. She has a sense of humor. And as you should, you can't take yourself or life too serious. Now, of course, we have wars going on about so much. I subscribe to Cynthia G. Now, my sister covers a variety of stories. Sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to get settled. I'm really tired. But she covers a variety of stories that are going on around the world. And I like listening to her sometimes, but I don't understand why she spends so much time. I guess that's her niche. It's rose water, y'all. Snap out of it. It might be her niche. I don't know. I just don't understand why she puts so much energy into these people. Like Farrakhan said, the best thing we can do is get to know ourselves and ignore their very existence. And that sounds like a great solution to me. We always go over here, and I'm trying to think. It's another dude that signs at the time. Maybe this is him. He does news, so let's just watch and see. December 20th. Okay, y'all. I don't understand why you would drive towards that. Oh, I hope we're nobody in that car. Oh, there is somebody in that car.
Motorists in Melbourne took their chances yesterday as rising floodwaters in the city closed roads, diverted flights and brought public transport to a standstill, while on the other extreme, baking conditions up north have left people in New South Wales and Queensland sweltering. And for more, we're joined by David Wowood in Melbourne and Gillian Whiting in Brisbane. Good morning to you both. Now, first to you, David, how bad is the damage in Melbourne? We're seeing some pretty bad pictures this morning.
Yes, Eddie, well, the bill is still being calculated, but you did see those pictures yesterday. They were quite frightening for some people. Their houses were entirely flooded. Their businesses were entirely flooded. All they had really was a broom. These are urban areas. They weren't really prepared for flooding. Even though that people were told that there was a bit of rain on the way, no one really expected to see the flooding on the scale that we did. It's quite funny, well, not funny, but amusing to see some people take their chances in urban areas in their car in floodwaters. Many people didn't think it would be a problem. They ended up having to crawl out of their sunroof and windows and have other people come and tow them to safety. In fact, one of our own Channel 7 cameramen waded into the waist-depth water and pulled out a few cars himself as well. So there's a lot of that going on, people not really understanding the threat level. But this morning, there is a little bit of damage, but people seem to be okay and everything seems to be all right at this stage.
All right, David, that's good to hear. Now, Gillian, we were hearing that we're going to expect some rain for the Queensland coast today, but it's been sweltering up there. How are you coping?
Oh, the Queenslanders, we cope with the heat. It's actually been all right, not overly hot, but New Year's Eve, it's going to be really warm, around 34 degrees, and humid as well, close to the coast.
an interesting string of events out in western Nevada. Over the last 24 hours, there have been a lot of earthquakes in one specific area close to this town of Hawthorne. You can see all those little dots there. And again, this is not too far from the border of California, but literally in the last 24 hours, we've had almost 30 earthquakes. Most of them pretty small, but a couple of them have been over 5.5. Now, those are big enough, according to the USGS, to at least cause some minor damage very close to the epicenter. This is what's known as an earthquake swarm, and there is some research that shows that you get an earthquake swarm like this, it can increase the chances of a bigger earthquake happening in the near future, but it's also not a for sure thing, like it's going to happen. So I don't want to worry people or anything, but just kind of interesting to see this, and we'll see what happens there.
Excuse me. The music, I can't. And it's funny that these people will search the oxygen, they'll search the water, they'll search everywhere except for the biblically for the answer.
Japan's ANN television network reports that global warming is killing coral around the southern island of Okinawa. 97% of the coral is gradually turning white and dying. Scientists say that rising water temperatures are gradually killing the coral's source of food. And they say the loss of coral in the sea will break the balance of the ecosystem.
Out now in the DRC, where flooding has caused major damage in the Congolese city of Goma, at least 50 people have been confirmed dead and thousands have been left homeless. Torrential rains have caused the Kalamo River to burst its banks, flooding 2 districts. Authorities say the search for victims is ongoing. Climate change is causing increased rainfall in parts of Central Africa, with the Congo Basin one of the worst affected areas.
Solar eclipses aren't very rare as far as cosmic events go. However, when they occur, they are only visible from a certain point on the Earth. The last total solar eclipse that happened was in March of last year, and was only visible from parts of Indonesia. People in the area of Alaska saw a partial eclipse, but were far from the tiny region of land that experienced a completely blocked out sun. But for the first time since 1979, people across the United States will witness a total solar eclipse. On August 21st, 2017, the moon will totally block out the midday sun as it passes between the Earth and the sun. NASA has even set up a countdown until the massive and rare eclipse event occurs.
Now, we want to update you on a story we've been following. Russia has opened a criminal investigation into an official in Siberia after more than 70 people died from drinking bath lotion.
They were drinking the lotion to get drunk and suffered alcohol poisoning. Consuming alcohol-laced lotion as a cheaper alternative to regular alcohol is fairly common in Russia. In this case, the product in question was contaminated with methanol, which can be lethal. Investigators have so far detained over 20 people. Meantime, Russian President Vladimir Putin has demanded better regulation of bath products.
Serious allegations are coming from the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan as he is accused the US-led.
Yeah. So you mean to tell me they had to better regulate lotion? Yeah, I saw them eyes closing so much. That is crazy. Did you see this? Let's look at this again, and we're gonna move forward. I'm like, I digress, honey. Lotion? Drinking lotion.
President Vladimir Putin has demanded better regulation of bath products.
Serious allegations are coming from the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan as he is accused the US-led coalition of supporting terrorist groups.
Başında söyledikleri şu. In the beginning, the coalition said that they were going to fight ISIS. They were even accusing us of supporting ISIS. Now they have all disappeared. On the contrary, they are supporting terrorist YPG, PYD, including ISIS. It's very clear. We have confirmed evidence with pictures, photos, and videos.
Caleb Morgan joins us now from New York. Caleb, pretty damning stuff, since he's got the evidence to back it all up. Just take us through this story.
Well, we don't yet have the evidence in front of us, but he does say that he has it. He has evidence of alleged U.S. support for the ISIL terrorists. The biggest question seems to be what impact this will have on the coalition in the region. These statements from Erdogan certainly inflammatory, and it could have an impact.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. That's tough. So you mean to tell me bath lotion?
Partner of Turkey. Turkey's been a strong ally for decades.
We believe Turkey's a genuine partner in destroying ISIL.
Now, just recently, a statement was given on behalf of President Erdogan in which he accused the United States of, quote, not providing necessary support to Turkey in its fight against terrorism. He described how in the Jarablus region and other places where Turkey is battling against terrorist forces that Turkey has not received adequate support from the United States. Now, it's also important to keep in mind the context that a new format in negotiations has recently opened up. Talks are taking place between Turkey, Iran, and Russia regarding the situation in Syria and the region. The foreign ministers of the three countries have gathered to discuss the situation in Aleppo and in Syria. And recently, the spokesperson for the U.S. State Department, John Kirby, was grilled about the U.S. position regarding these new talks between the three countries. Let's take a listen to that conversation.
Please.
The Secretary doesn't see it as a snub.
No, the Secretary doesn't see this as a snub at all.
Does he not at least feel the U.S. is being sidelined, if not excluded, for what was something the U.S. was leading on?
We are not excluded.
Right now, this leadership that you're speaking of is all past tense. Is that not true?
I would disagree.
They don't seem to want him to be involved.
Well, they can speak for who they want involved or not. I mean, we recognize that we weren't invited, that this was between Russia, Turkey, and Iran.
Now, it remains to be seen what impact today's comments will have on the continued coalition between the United States and Turkey in the region.
It is a gorgeous estate on 45 acres in Centerville called Pioneer Point. The 1920s Georgian-style house has been featured in style and travel magazines. It is a place, since 1972, that Russian diplomats have used as a dacha, or summer house.
All kinds of people live here. We ride our bikes, we walk our dogs, we see diplomat tags. We cross the street, we say hello. We can kind of tell because people speak Russian, but nobody bothers anybody. We all just kind of coexist here.
Not anymore, it appears, because now the world is learning the Russian compound is also at the center of an intensifying international spy game with the U.S. NBC News is reporting the Russians also use Pioneer Point to monitor NSA headquarters at Fort Meade and another NSA building on Kent Island. Today, as part of a series of sanctions against Russia for its alleged hacking of the U.S. during the election, President Obama ordered the compound shut down and 35 Russian diplomats out of the U.S. In a statement, the president said, quote, all Americans should be alarmed by Russia's actions.
Mr. Putin is a KGB thug, and that any interference in our elections or anything that is outside the interest of America
Yeah. You all. So you mean to tell me these people had a house here compound, whatever fancy word, mansion. And we didn't know they were here. That's not true. And for this guy, whoever he is, he's obviously reading a teleprompter. Putin is a KGB thug. Mr. News Guy. Whatever city and town you get on the news and provide entertainment for. The world is being ran by thugs. Yeah, y'all, I'm looking him straight in his eye. Reminds me of Farrakhan doing an interview with, I think his last name is Wallace, the 60 Minutes guy. Let's just go there. We're going to make this interesting. I'm going to start really putting a little more gusto in my videos because it's time. You know, we're on limited time. This stuff is going to be controlled heavily soon. So we might as well get what we can get. Oh, this my history. Y'all don't mind my wretchedness, because sometimes, yeah, this is it.
Just as his black brothers and sisters have suffered down the years, he has been even more bitter about America's Jews. But even though many Americans, black and white, perceive him as a racist, this leader of the Nation of Islam, with his million-man march last October, made himself a force to be reckoned with. In person, this rather private man can come across as earnest and reasonable in professing his desire for a true reconciliation between the races and religions in America. But almost everything he says has been drowned out by the current controversy over his recent meetings in the Middle East with sworn enemies of the United States. Tomorrow, Minister Farrakhan embarks on a nationwide tour to explain his motives for that trip and to blunt the criticism that has led the Justice Department to investigate whether he must now register as a foreign agent.
For me to register as a foreign agent is to give America control over what I say. And that's what America wants, is control over what I say. In the foreign agent law, you can't influence public opinion. That's my business, to influence public opinion, especially when liars are deceiving the American people. So no, I will never register as a foreign agent because I'm not that.
Farrakhan says he does not worry about what the government thinks of his traveling to Tehran, where he spoke to millions of Iranians celebrating the 17th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution, an uprising that led to the taking of the U.S. hostages, or about his much-publicized visit to Baghdad to confer with Iraq's Saddam Hussein. On his return home to Chicago in February, he would explain himself only to his brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam.
My job was to get up quickly and get out of America and connect the Nation of Islam and Black America to Africa, to the Middle East, and to the Muslim world. That was why I had to go.
And one of the first places he went to was Libya, where he received a warm welcome from Muammar Gaddafi. The Libyan news agency, JAMA, reported Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi saying the following: "Our confrontation with America used to be like confronting a fortress from outside. Today we have found a loophole to enter the fortress from within." You are a loophole for Muammar Gaddafi, who you say offered you $1 billion, who has in the past given you $5 million?
They offered me more than $1 billion. He offered me the wealth of the nation of Libya behind the Nation of Islam.
You were a loophole for Muammar Gaddafi.
I don't know what he means by loophole. Maybe he wanted to invite him on 60 Minutes.
I have.
And ask him. But certainly, I can't be a functionary for Muammar Gaddafi. However, I would be most happy to detail my conversation with him if I'm subpoenaed before Congress.
That subpoena to talk to the Congress about his travels to America's enemies in the Middle East has not been issued. Nonetheless, I reminded him he didn't go to Egypt, where Sadat and Begin made peace. A Muslim and a Jew. Didn't go to Jordan, where King Hussein and Shimon Peres have made an accord. Didn't go to Israel, where Arafat and Rabin finally shook hands. Instead of just going to a lot of dictatorships, to go to a democratic country where Jews and Muslims are beginning to reconcile might have been a wonderful sign for you, Minister Farrakhan, to show the world.
If they're on the road to reconciliation, that's fine. But, there's also the possibility of my being assassinated overseas. Egypt right now is a place where it's very, very volatile. And I thought that in that surrounding, it might not be the best place for me at this time. If I went to Israel, I don't think Israel would be the best place for me to be at this time, considering the view that most Jews have of Louis Farrakhan.
You go to Nigeria, which is, if not the most corrupt nation in Africa, and it is, it could be the most corrupt nation in the world, Minister Farrakhan.
Oh, and now, Mr. Wallace.
It is the most corrupt nation that I have ever covered. I've been there 25 years ago, and I've been there as recently as last year.
Fine. So what? 35 years old. That's what that nation is. Now here's America, 226 years old. You love democracy, but there in Africa, you're trying to force these people into a system of government that you just have accepted. 30 years ago, black folk got the right to vote. You're not in any moral position to tell anybody how corrupt they are. You should be quiet and let those of us who know our people go there and help them get out of that condition. But America should keep her mouth shut. Wherever there's a corrupt regime, as much hell as America has raised on the earth. No, I will not allow America, or you, Mr. Wallace, to condemn them as the most corrupt nation on earth when you have spilled the blood of human beings. Has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb and killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral judge? I think you should keep quiet, because with that much blood on America's hands, you have no right to speak. I will speak because I don't have that blood on my hand. Yes, there's corruption there. Yes, there's mismanagement of resources. Yes, there is abuse. There's abuse in every nation on earth, including this one. So let's not play holy to moralize on them. Let's help them.
I'm not moralizing. I'm asking a question, and I got an answer.
Why would you? You're not in any moral.
Which is, if not the most corrupt nation in acts, it is.
Y'all know me. Now, we're going to go back. These people crazy. Okay. Let's see.
We met with an appropriate response.
At Pioneer Point, U.S. In a statement, the president said, quote, all Americans should be alarmed by Russia's actions.
Mr. Putin is a KGB thug, and that any interference in our elections or anything that...
Okay, so that was the alarm for the Americans to be alarmed. That's the government telling us. And not the government, but that's the corruption, the spiritual warfare telling us to deflect energy of alarm so that it can be harvested. Let's be clear what's going on, okay? Now, we're gonna go back where we were. That's not it. Okay.
The most corrupt nation that I have ever covered. I've been there 25 years ago, and I've been there as recently as last year.
Fine. So what? 35 years old. That's what that nation is. Now here's America, 226 years old. You love democracy, but there in Africa, you're trying to force these people in.
Yeah. This is why I like Dick Greger too. And I have a sick like for people to just go off. And when you got facts coming out of your mouth, I mean, it's priceless. There's no response. It's just silence out there. Okay, let's listen.
To a system of government that you just have accepted. 30 years ago, black folk got the right to vote. You're not in any moral position to tell anybody how corrupt they are. You should be quiet and let those of us who know our people go there and help them get out of that condition. But America should keep her mouth shut. Wherever there's a corrupt regime, as much hell as America has raised on the earth. No, I will not allow America, or you, Mr. Wallace, to condemn them as the most corrupt nation on earth when you have spilled the blood of human beings. Has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb and killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral judge? I think you should keep. Has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb and killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare you put. Has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb and killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare.
Have they, y'all? Yeah, we're gonna hit this one more time and we're gonna move
Dare
forward.
you put yourself in that position? Millions of Native Americans? How dare you? I will not allow America, or you, Mr. Wallace, to condemn them as the most corrupt nation on earth when you have spilled the blood of human beings. Has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb and killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral judge? I think you should keep quiet. Because with that much blood on America's hands, you have no right to speak. I will speak because I don't have that blood on my hand. Yes, there's corruption there. Yes, there's mismanagement of resources. Yes, there is abuse. There's abuse in every nation on earth, including this one. So let's not play holy to moralize on them. Let's help them.
I'm not moralizing. I'm asking a question, and I got an answer.
Why would you put it as the most corrupt regime in the world? That doesn't make sense.
Can you think of one more corrupt?
Yeah, I'm living in one. I'm living in one. Yes, you've done a hell nation on earth, including this one. So let's not play holy to moralize on them. Let's help them.
I'm not moralizing. I'm asking a question, and I got an answer.
Why would you put it as the most corrupt regime in the world? That doesn't make sense.
Can you think of one more corrupt?
Yeah, I'm living in one. I'm living in one. Yes, you've done a hell of a thing on this earth.
Corrupt.
Yeah, I'm living in one. I'm living in one. Yes, you've done a hell of a thing on this earth, so you should not be the one to talk. You should be quiet when it comes to moral condemnation. In my judgment. I didn't mean to be so fired up.
No, it's good.
Oh no, it's good. You know, we practice this before we started filming. Matter of fact, we're gonna keep that cut because y'all know it is a growing religion, but at the same time, we're supposed to stay away from religion. So this is a good example of what was going on then and what's going on now, and history repeating itself. It's the same people. They've always been at war, and it's always been a religious war. Priceless. Okay, so moving forward, it's just priceless. Let's just look at it. It's good.
It's good. That's my passion.
I first recognized the passion of the black Muslim movement and Louis Farrakhan way back in 1959 when I anchored a broadcast entitled The Hate That Hate Produced. The black Muslim meeting we filmed included a mock trial, a kind of passion play, where the white man was judged for crimes against the black race. The voice you will hear is that of the prosecutor. This tape will show you why white America was worried about the black Muslims.
I charge the white man, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, with being the greatest murderer on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest peace breaker on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest adulterer on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest troublemaker on earth. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you, bring back a verdict of guilty as charged.
I'm sure you remember that. You wrote it.
Yes.
And you believed that then.
Oh, yes, I believe it now.
So funny.
History is not false. If he says that the white man did all these things, I did not write. History is not false. If he says that the white man did all these things, I did not write.
Remember that. You wrote it.
Yes.
And you believed that then.
Oh, yes, I believe it now. History is not false. If he says that the white man did all these things, I did not write the white man's history. That history is written in murder, in the bloodshed of the darker peoples of the world, and even in the bloodshed of your own people.
Back at that time, Elijah Muhammad, the man whom you revere and still regard as the Messiah, in a certain sense, no?
Yes.
He wanted a separation. I couldn't even talk to him. Do you still believe in separation of the races?
I believe, Mike, that if we can't get along in peace, then we should separate. We have serious differences that are exacerbated now over time between black and white. The question that we have to answer, are those differences irreconcilable?
Are they?
I don't know. Have we tried as hard as we could to reconcile them? And if we have, and we cannot, then separation would be the best answer.
But you are suggesting that it's basically the white man's fault.
Oh, no, Mr. Wallace. I'm not going to say that. Because justice would not be served if I said it was all the fault of white people.
Reason that
we have to take some blame in this ourselves. As black people, we can't sit around waiting for white people to do for us what we should be doing for ourselves. And our failure to do this is our fault. White folk have done bad by us in the past. Yes, that is true. And they do some bad by us today. But if we did better by ourselves today, we could help to reconcile this difference.
Farrakhan's call for black men to do better for themselves was the theme of his Million Man March. Last fall, he called black men from all across America to come to Washington for a Day of Atonement. And they came. His message? Change your lives. But after the march, he says, he was depressed, somehow sad, hurt by the mainstream media who he felt failed to give him proper credit for his extraordinary accomplishment in organizing the march. He withdrew to the Nation of Islam's compound in Phoenix, Arizona. He disappeared from the public eye for almost 3 months. Then he reemerged for that tour of Africa and the Middle East. To observers like Dr. C. Eric Lincoln, a distinguished black historian and professor emeritus at Duke University, who has studied the Nation of Islam since the 1950s, Farrakhan's trip squandered a great opportunity. Professor Lincoln told me he was disgusted with your trip to the Middle East and to Africa. He said he blew it. After the Million Man March, he feels that you had what you were after. You had You had put yourself in the position as a leader of the entire black community in America, which you had never had before. And then, that you just threw it away with the trip to Africa. Now, this is from a man,
Yes,
scholar, been a guest in your home,
yes.
loves you and your wife.
And I love him. Let me say this. There are many people like Dr. Lincoln who think just like that. They were hurt because they watched my struggle. And they said, now he has arrived, okay?
Right.
And they felt not only that I had arrived for me, I had arrived for them because secretly they have wanted to embrace Louis Farrakhan. And just as they were about to put their arms around me, I went to Africa and the Middle East. And to quote them, I blew it.
You spoke, in their view, against your own country.
You know, some of your best patriots are those who never went along with the government position. Listen, everyone that stepped back from me, they didn't run away. They're behind a tree, looking. Is he gonna make it? How's he gonna get out of this one? Oh my God, I'm not a politician. I don't do what people think I should do. I do what God inspires me to do. Which one of these leaders would have asked me to call for 1 million men to come to Washington? Not one. That was an inspiration from God that I followed, and they all applauded. Great thing you did. God inspired me to get up and leave this country, and before long, those same critics will say, I was wrong, Farrakhan.
I want to show you now, Minister Farrakhan, an excerpt from your speech, Savior's Day, in Chicago, a couple of months ago.
I know you want to kill me, but I just raised the price. You want me dead, but you gonna pay a price to get that result.
Who wants to kill you? Why?
I believe that conversation is raging right now in government circles because I appear to be interfering with America's foreign policy objectives in Africa and in the Middle East. They want me kind of silenced or muzzled, and if they can destroy my credibility, as they did Martin Luther King first, take him down in the eyes of his people and then assassinate him. I don't believe that America is beyond that. I believe it's being discussed right now in the White House. I believe it's being discussed by certain members of Congress. How are you going to deal with Farrakhan? Yes, I presented you with a dilemma, but I'm warning America. I'm not Martin Luther King. I'm not Malcolm X. I'm in a little different time frame, and I think you would be wise to see if God is with me, and if God is with me, you would be well to leave me alone.
More from Louis Farrakhan on Mike Tyson and rape, on Malcolm X, and on his relationship with America's Jewish community when we return. Louis Farrakhan despairs of the manner in which too many black men in America, he says, treat women, their wives and others too. I asked him why he had recently gone to Las Vegas to watch a convicted rapist, Mike Tyson, fight for the heavyweight title. We talked with him before Mike Tyson's latest episode of alleged sexual harassment in Chicago. What message does it send to your sisters in Islam that you went, in effect, to glorify a convicted rapist?
Do you deny another human being the chance to change, to be made better? Before Mike Tyson went to prison, he visited me. We talked. And I told Mike, I said, brother, whether you're guilty of this charge or not, and he swore to me that he was not guilty, I said, but whether you're guilty of this charge or not, you have been abusive of women. I said, you know, with me, rape is a crime for which I believe the death penalty should be applied. Because what you've done to the woman, only God can bring her back from that. I said, and I wrote him a letter when he was in prison. I said, Mike, you will not leave prison until you learn the lesson that God intended for you to learn. So when I went to see Mike in his fight for the championship, I went to see whether this reformed human being, by the grace of God, would win his championship back. And I'm very proud of Mike. I'm very proud of the change that he has made in his life.
You were brought up as an Episcopalian?
Yes, sir.
By your mother?
Yes, sir.
And your father? What did you know of your father?
Very little. Very little. He was from the Caribbean, from the island of Jamaica, a very light-skinned black man who I believe had white parentage, black and white parentage. He was a philanderer, if you will pardon the expression, and my mother broke up with him and reared us by herself.
Did you miss not having a father?
Yes, but my mother was so strong. She was both mother and father.
And that's true in the black community in America today. No?
Yes, it is. My dad liked women, and I don't know too many
He
men
attempted
who don't.
to
But my mother
devalue
loved her children
us
and
again.
did her best to make a future for us, and for that, I am eternally grateful.
It was his mother who encouraged him to play the violin, which he still plays today. In fact, the man born 63 years ago as Louis Eugene Walcott, who grew up in Roxbury, Massachusetts, originally wanted a career in show business as a singer. You called yourself the Charm.
I did. And since my parents were from the Caribbean and I loved calypso so well, I began singing calypso, and every calypsonian chooses some name. And I remember I was in Montreal, Canada, and the people were sitting with me one night. They said, "You are so charming." And so from that, I started calling myself the Charmer. I wish that I could be charming today.
You should be ashamed. It was in 1955, after hearing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad speak, that he dedicated his voice to the black Muslim movement.
'Cause that's the only way we're gonna be free.
Now, he was Louis X. His mentor was Malcolm X, who was eventually gunned down at Harlem's Audubon Ballroom in 1965. Farrakhan has steadfastly denied any involvement in that murder. When Malcolm X's daughter Kubila was arrested last year for hiring a hitman to kill Farrakhan in retaliation for her father's murder, he would not press charges against her, believing the FBI had set her up. And that finally brought about a public reconciliation with Betty Shabazz, Malcolm's widow.
I can't say that all the differences are reconciled. I can't say that the pain and the hurt of 30 years and the loss of her husband is all of a sudden forgotten. But I can say, Mr. Wallace, that atonement and reconciliation is absolutely necessary. And we took that theme from Jewish tradition.
You don't trust the media, you've said so. You don't trust whites, you've said so. You don't trust Jews, you've said so. Well, here I am, white, Jewish, and a reporter. So why in the world did you trust me enough to sit down and talk to me this way, Mr. Farrakhan?
Let me say this. I would not say that all whites and all Jews and all media are untrustworthy. That is not a fair characterization of my
That's the
thinking.
perception of a lot of people in America.
Perception is not necessarily reality.
Take a look at this clip.
You are wicked deceivers of the American people. You have sucked their blood. You are not real Jews, those of you that are not real Jews. Perception is not necessarily reality. Take a look. Untrustworthy. That is not a fair characterization of my
That's the
thinking.
perception of a lot of people in America.
Perception is not necessarily reality. Take a look at this clip. Perception is not necessarily reality. Take a look at this clip. You are wicked deceivers of the American people. You have sucked their blood. You are not real Jews, those of you that are not real Jews. You are the synagogue of Satan. And you have wrapped your tentacles around the U.S. government. And you are deceiving and sending this nation to hell. But I warn you in the name of Allah, you would be wise to leave me alone. But if you choose to crucify me, know that Allah will crucify you.
That's a message of reconciliation. It's bound to be perceived as anti-Semitic, and you know it, and you do it over and over again.
I quoted the synagogue of Satan is part of a scripture in the book of Revelations, the 2nd chapter and the 3rd chapter. It says, and I quote, those who say they are Jews and are not, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan.
The people you're talking to there, the people who saw that on television, they aren't students of the Bible as you are. They don't know the scripture as you do. What they hear, what I heard, was overtones of absolute, you were sticking it to the Jews once again.
In reality, Mr. Wallace, you know, I've heard whites and Jews say they're good and bad in every race. Yeah. And if they're good and bad in every race, does that not apply to Jews? Are they good Jews? And are they bad Jews? And if there are good Jews, what constitutes a good Jew?
Give me a list of a half a dozen good Jews.
No. Only God knows who the good are. There are good appearing Muslims, there are good appearing Christians, there are good appearing Jews, but God knows who is good. And so the good are those who live by the standard that makes you a Jew. Once you deviate from that standard, you're not a Jew anymore, from my vantage point.
Have you talked about bad Muslims?
Of course. There are bad Muslims. There are Muslims who deviate from the path of God. I'm not anti-Semitic. I do not hate Jews. I want this to be very clear. I do not hate Jews. I do not hate people because their skin is white. What I hate is evil and injustice and exploitation, whether a black does it, whether a white does it, whether a Jew, a Muslim, or a Christian does it.
And Farrakhan, despite all his past rhetoric, now says he wants to make a genuine effort at reconciliation with the Jewish community in America.
I'm willing to visit the board of rabbis in any city in America, sit down and talk with those scholars of Judaism. I am willing to visit a synagogue and speak to the Jewish people, because I do not want Jewish children to believe that they have somebody who, if he comes into great power, will put them in ovens. I don't want that for my children. I don't want that for your children. And if we don't want that for our children, then the question is, what are we willing to do today to stave off any ugly future?
Have you made that kind of a suggestion before, Minister Farrakhan?
Yes, I have.
And what has been the response?
Well, there are always preconditions. Well, Farrakhan, if you tone down your rhetoric,
well, you sure haven't toned down your rhetoric.
I can't tone down what I believe to be truth. And if it's truth, and if I'm in error, how am I going to know that? Unless there's a dialogue. And you say, no, Farrakhan, here's the truth. And if you can show me that I love truth, and I hope that I'm humble enough to be open enough to see the truth if you show it to me.
My Jewish friends would say, Wallace, come on, we've heard all this before. He's not to be trusted. You know that.
Well, that's on both sides.
Well, I know it.
That's on both sides. I could say, well, we've heard that before too. Reconciliation. Look at the Indians. Look at all the treaties that were signed, and look at where they are. So let's not talk about trust, because I really don't.
He's not to be trusted. You know that.
Well, that's on both sides.
Well, I know it.
That's on both sides. I could say, well, we've heard that before too. Reconciliation. Look at the Indians. Look at all the treaties that were signed, and look at where they are. So let's not talk about trust, because I was signed, and look at where they. It's on both sides. I could say, well, we've heard that before too. Reconciliation. Look at the Indians. Look at all the treaties that were signed, and look at where they are. So let's not talk about trust, because I really don't think that you earned trust. But we can earn it together, but time is running out on all of us. And I think if we're going to make that move, why not let's make it now?
As we said, Louis Farrakhan, with the success of the Million Man March, made himself a man to watch in America.
Y'all better pay attention to those words. Time is running out on all of us, and if we're gonna make that move, why not make it now? Is that an offer to make a deal with the devil? We don't know. Anyway, we're moving forward. I wanted to look up the word New Year. So we're in the Etymology dictionary, online, of course. And we're going to start here. I'm not going to read it to you. We're looking at what this means. Well, yes, I am. I'm going to give y'all a little bit. Well, no, I'm not. Y'all can read it for yourself. Just want y'all to know, excuse me, what's going on. There's so much going on, and people tend to not care. This is why you're in the land of Nod. Just not caring. Just simply existing. Okay. Yeah, there's always something in the mix. Okay, so let's read it then. New Year's Eve, 1300 per pay drunken in Dalton on New Year's when the Julian calendar began on January 1st. So I guess that's what we're keeping. But the Christian church frowned on pagan celebrations of this and chose the Feast of Annunciation. This is celebrated on March the 25th, the springtime. So what this is telling us that this is the Christians' New Year Day. It's New Year's Day. The Feast of Annunciation, March 25th, as New Year's Day. Okay. So the civic year in England continued to begin on January 1st until late 12th century. I said 12th, funny. Okay. And even though legal documents then shifted to March 25th, popular calendars and almanacs continued to begin on January 1st. So even though they legally made this the new year, because it really is the new year, they just continue to print the almanacs. And this is why you cannot, the almanacs even only, they tell you to plant in March, or at the end of March anyway. The calendar reform of 1751 restored the Julian New Year. New Year's was the main midwinter festival in Scotland from the 17th century, when Protestant authorities banned Christmas, and continued so after England reverted to Christmas. Hence the Scottish flavor, Auld Lang Syne, etc. New Year's gathering in public places began in 1878 in London after new bells were installed in St. Paul's. So, all this is connected. Leap year is Middle Dutch stricken. Leap forward, literally be startled in fear. The 29th of February is Schriekkeldag. That's Danish skudal. Swedish skata. You got to speak from the back of your throat. Our language is from the back of your throat, okay? Literally shoot year. This is the leap year now. German Skaja is from Schotten. Intercalate. The late Latin phrase annus bisectulus, source of Romanic words. And it says compare here. Yeah, this stuff just be so deep for me. I didn't even get on here to do all this. I was just trying to show you how the etymology of the new year. In reference to the Roman leap year from late Latin annus bisecta, leap year, literally the twice sixth day, a year containing a second sixth day, because the sixth day before the calends of March was double. Everything is a double. And since we're saying everything is a double, yeah, I promise. Well, he just said something about perception. Late 14th century, receiving collection from Latin perceptionem, nominative perceptio, perception, apprehension, a taking, from perceiver, perceive, see, perceive, first used in the more literal sense of Latin word. In secondary sense, the taking cognizance of it is recorded in English from 1610, meaning intuitive or direct recognition of some innate quality, from 1827. Imperception, want of perception, 1620s, from simulated form, and not opposite of. Anyway, he said perception is not truth. Y'all better wake up. Let truth and falsehood grapple. Whoever knew truth put to the worst in a free and open encounter. Yeah, I know, feeling a rebel. Okay, let's get out of here. Yo, I hope y'all not celebrating foolishness. It's okay to cook, but not in celebration or have any superstition about any of this stuff that these people have made up. I can't spend the whole morning with y'all. I have to get up, really. And I'm up, but I have to get up and start what I have going on. But please, y'all, excuse me. I cannot wait till I get off at 2 o'clock this afternoon. I will be taking a nap. And then I'll be going to bed. Yeah, this is my 6th day in. Like I said, thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you for viewing, sharing, liking. It was something I wanted to do on Instagram. Don't forget to go over to Twitter and follow me. I'm Urban Intellectual at Styles by Nina. And I'm trying to see that I share my last video on here. What's my name? I gotta check. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your day. Let's go back to Insta. Yep. Go ahead and follow me. I'm doing the same thing, just a different stage. It's truth, uplifting. Me and myself. I even share some of this stuff that my brothers put out here. This is a video that Brother Uno shared. I also share all of my brother's stuff. That's just what I do. Y'all are my brothers and sisters in this truth. I guess I'll just let this play. Is this it? No. Oh, well, we didn't finish this. Y'all can go over to this Farrakhan video. I already closed it out. I showed y'all the page.
Outside the interest of America should be met with an appropriate response.
At Pioneer Point this afternoon, U.S. government officials kept members of the media off.
Peace and power to you. And I'm out of here.
Donald Trump says it's time to move on, but said he will meet with intelligence officials about this whole thing next week. Senator Ben Cardin and Congressman Elijah Cummings have called for more exhaustive investigations into the alleged Russian hack and the impact on this election. We're live in the news from George Lettuce, WBAL, TV 11 News.
George, thank you. Now, while Vladimir Putin responded with threats of retaliation, an official Russian embassy account went for a more sarcastic tone. The Russian embassy in the United Kingdom slammed President Obama's decision and posted a picture of a duck with the word lame written across it, referring to him as a lame duck president.
Russia will not expel U.S. diplomats over recently imposed U.S. sanctions, at least for now. Russian President Vladimir Putin said in a statement Friday that despite the unfriendly and provocative measures the U.S. has taken against the country's alleged election interference, Russia will not create any problems for U.S. diplomats or their families. Earlier this week, a U.S. government report showed 2 groups of hackers affiliated with Russia carried out a spear phishing campaign that compromised both the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. After the report came out, the Obama administration took action against Russia, including kicking out 35 Russian officials and sanctioning Russian intelligence agencies and officials. Putin said though Russia has the right to retaliate, it will instead make plans to restore relations based on the policies of the incoming Trump administration.
President Obama and President-elect Trump have been trading potshots over the holidays, but yesterday they spoke on the phone about the transition. The president-elect called it a very nice conversation, but hours earlier, Mr. Trump accused the Obama administration of disrespecting Israel at the UN Security Council last week. Secretary of State John Kerry then defended those actions in a wide-ranging speech that sharply criticized a longtime U.S. ally. Chip Reed is traveling with the president in Honolulu. Chip, good morning.
Well, good morning. Secretary Kerry spent more than an hour explaining the Obama administration's plan for peace in the Middle East, a plan that President-elect Trump is expected to ignore when he takes office next month. Standing with boxing promoter Don King, President-elect Donald Trump
I
took a
cannot.
break from meetings at his Mar-a-Lago resort Wednesday to weigh in on U.S.-Israeli relations.
When you see the United Nations solving problems, they don't. They cause problems. So
Trump's comments came after the UN Security Council recently voted to condemn Israel for continuing to build settlements in the West Bank. The resolution also condemned.
they don't. They cause problems.
Trump took a break from meetings at his Mar-a-Lago resort Wednesday to weigh in on U.S.-Israeli relations.
When you see the United Nations solving problems, they don't. They cause problems. So
Trump's comments came after the
My husband was telling me the other day, the enemy always gives you some of that truth. That was truth.
and violence.
The United States did, in fact, vote in accordance with our values.
In an impassioned speech, Secretary of State John Kerry said the decision to allow the vote to move forward was in line with long-standing U.S. policy.
The Israeli Prime Minister publicly supports a two-state solution. But his current coalition is the most right-wing in Israeli history.
Kerry said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's support for settlement building has hurt the peace process.
The two-state solution is now in serious jeopardy.
Netanyahu offered a blistering response.
Israelis do not need to be lectured about the importance of peace by foreign leaders.
The Prime Minister accused Kerry of downplaying the threat posed by Palestinian violence and expressed disappointment with current U.S. policies.
Israel hopes that the outgoing Obama administration will prevent any more damage being done to Israel at the UN in its waning days.
It's improper for anybody to talk about our president the way that he did.
Former U.S. ambassador to Israel and Egypt under both Republican and Democratic presidents, Daniel Kurtzer, says Netanyahu may be emboldened by Mr. Trump's public promises to upend policy toward Israel.
The indications are that he's heading in a direction that's 180 degrees away from what every previous president has done since 1967.
I think what John Kerry was saying was very much on a global perspective of what's important for Israel, and his views on where a two-state solution is about how the world thinks that this issue and all the dilemmas that are facing Israel can be fixed.
The vote that they did at the United Nations last week was a great step, and I hope that they will follow through in order to stop the settlements in Palestine in order to get to the two-state solution.
Well, meantime, President-elect Donald Trump is criticizing the current White House administration's approach and jumped to Israel's defense, tweeting, "We cannot continue to let Israel be treated with such total disdain and disrespect. They used to have a great friend in the U.S., but not anymore. And the beginning of the end was the horrible Iran deal, and now this. Stay strong, Israel. January 20th is fast approaching."
ما فيش مي، ما فيش تواليت، ما فيش ولا شيء، ما فيش ولا شيء. قاعدين يكذبوا علينا بريحه خبزه هيك قد هيك وريحه ما نعرفوش عليها حلال ولا حرام يا اخوي. تعبنا يا اخوي، رانا تعبنا.
More than 7,000 migrants are trapped in Serbia, bracing for the cold winter in overcrowded camps in terrible conditions. Most hail from Afghanistan, Iraq and Syria. They're forced to set up tents on the street or abandoned warehouses, living for months without basic amenities, mostly limited to a single tap of water, waiting to have their number called up for a legal passage to Hungary.
جينا على صربيا مسجلين اسمائنا We came to Serbia and registered our names at the camp, expecting to be able to leave legally. When we got to the border, we found that there was no electricity, no water. It is very cold. The children are freezing. There is no food. We have to buy things from the supermarket, but we are running out of money. We've been here for 7 months. There is no justice.
The so-called Balkans route has been officially closed. Activists and NGOs say many shelters in the Balkans are full, but the stream of people arriving to cross the border is relentless.
According to our knowledge, there is around up to 100 arrivals per day. We're meeting meeting is supporting 30 to 50 new people per day in Belgrade and in Preševo.
Only around 20 migrants are allowed to enter Hungary each day. The rest stay behind. At this overcrowded Belgrade centre, Save the Children provides activities for boys and girls. Serbia's pledged to make 6,000 beds available, but has appealed for more help from the European Union to ease the crisis.
The U.S. Navy aircraft carrier that helped deliver the first airstrikes against ISIS is now heading back into the fight. Fox News paid a visit to the USS George H.W. Bush ahead of its deployment. Lucas Tomlinson is live for us from the Pentagon with more. Hi, Lucas.
Hi, Heather. Well, good morning. Well, right now, there are not only are there no U.S. aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf and in the Middle East, but there's no American aircraft carriers deployed anywhere else in the world. Following USS Eisenhower's and her strike group's return today to Norfolk, following a 7-month deployment, striking ISIS as well as Iranian-backed forces in Yemen. USS George H.W. Bush is up next. Fox News recently flew out 40 miles off the coast of North Carolina to visit the warship and watch jets land every 60 seconds, the crew working to get that down to 40 seconds. And in addition to fighting ISIS, the ship's commanding officer says his crew will be ready to deal with a resurgent Russia or China if necessary.
While we don't have any emergent or pending conflicts with them, certainly, it is fair to say that we have divergent interests in many cases. And so we need to be prepared to understand how we will react to that if necessary.
Officials tell me they do have other jets available to make up for this carrier gap. Now, you mentioned some of the history with this ship. USS George H.W. Bush launched the first airstrikes against ISIS on August 8, 2014. Now, 2.5 years later, that warship is getting ready to return to the fight.
This is the military equivalent of spring training because once we complete this at the end of December, then we'll be going forward, and it'll be real forces that will be going flying with and against.
Times reports that police will use garbage trucks in part to help protect nearly 2 million people planning to ring in the new year in Times Square. Officers and patrol cars are already lining up in the area, and police are introducing new security measures following terror attacks overseas. Major European cities are also stepping up security after the Berlin attack. Armed officers are patrolling some streets in the UK, and Anna Warner is now in Times Square for us with an inside look at New York's massive security operation this weekend. Anna, good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, you have to imagine this spot packed with some 2 million people. It's going to be wall-to-wall people here, but police say they will have that all under control with some...
The sad part is that these people are going to flock into the streets, business as usual, with everything that's going horribly wrong in the world.
Layer of security this New Year's Eve, following terror attacks in Europe, where trucks were driven into crowds of people. For the first time, the NYPD is placing 65 sand trucks weighing 40 tons each in strategic locations around Times Square. They're also doubling the number of blocker vehicles.
Every desk will be filled.
Chief James Waters heads up the NYPD's Counterterrorism Bureau. What's the goal of having all of those very heavy sand trucks surrounding Times Square?
It creates a hardened perimeter, so it won't allow a vehicle to get in there and replicate the Nice attack.
The NYPD is also increasing its long gun teams at security checkpoints and using helicopters and boats to monitor the area, something the department already does daily. Do you want petite people who might potentially be thinking of doing something bad to know, hey, listen, you're going to run into some serious resistance if you even try?
I want the good people to know and have a level of confidence in the police that we're able to protect them. And I want the bad people to know, beware, New York City is not the place to try to do this.
There's no known threat to the city, but Waters says his biggest concern is what he doesn't know.
That lone actor who flies under the radar but has decided on his own, self-radicalized perhaps in his mother's basement in his pajamas, and he decides tonight's the night.
Mini splits are a modern and efficient way to heat and cool your home. They're a perfect choice for room additions, garages, or rooms where ductwork isn't available. They're great because they're easy to install, energy efficient, and whisper-quiet. Blue Ridge Ductless Mini Split is made to Alpine specifications by the world's largest air conditioning manufacturer. Blue Ridge is the best-selling, highest rated, and lowest cost mini split available. The low cost is achieved by cutting out the middleman. We buy directly from the manufacturer and sell directly to you to provide.
Disgusting. How did y'all even get on there? Ooh, at the end of the video. Alright, y'all. Peace and power. I am now logging off. Gotta go right now.